Good morning, everyone. It's the Neutral Zone. It's Monday at 11 o'clock. This is Jason Schwartz. I'm here with Dreaming Bear. We're going to have a great show today. Hang on just a moment.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year. So many men sold away. And I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain. Made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his fate. Pleased to meet you. Hope you get my name. But what puzzling you is the nature of my game.
Thank you, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, for Sympathy for the Devil. You know, and my theme song here is a little bopping music at the beginning. It's like 13 seconds. Mm-hmm. Actually, like a sitcom. When you hear it, it sounds like an All in the Family,
right,
an old-time kind of sitcom intro, and it has a bouncing red ball. And that red ball is like a cushy, easy-going red ball. But then here comes this zinger lightning bolt. We're going to have a contest out here very soon. We're going to have to figure out the prize because we want animators to feel free. You know, remember Disney used to have at the end of the Mickey Mouse Club, Donald Duck would get up there, and there would be this big gong or whatever it was, and he would take a stick and hit it, and every time it would have a different kind of an experience. Well, we're planning an animated series, and you guys, see, Dreaming Bear, that's your camera.
Oh, okay.
He's like, what is this guy doing? We're on radio, 88.5 FM, KAKU, the voice of Maui. That means all of you can be on radio, and we hope you're on radio, to express the way you want to express. Dreaming Bear is a wonderful expressor. You know, when I think about you, I first saw you, and you were a very striking image when I first saw you. And then I said, and then I heard you speak, and I said, this guy has a good speaking voice. Okay. And then I heard you were also a doctor and have experience in different areas, and that you were sort of grew up and have traveled widely. So I look forward to our conversation because we keep passing through the night and we wave and say hi, you know. But like you said, we get to know each other live to the world, which is really exciting.
What better way? What better way?
Exciting. I'm Jason Schwartz. I'm the host of the show, and that's just because I'm sitting in this seat regularly. But I have a great time because I get to interview different kinds of guests. Last week we had Councilman Mike Molina.
Wow.
And we speak about everything, but, you know, I'm not a guy with a sword. I put down my sword. I'm a neutral zone where we talk.
I like that.
He remembered 20 years ago, I guess more, when I was interviewing him, I told him that my style was, I lay down my sword. And he remembers it to this day and brings it up almost every time.
I like that.
Because, you know, the neutral zone is here so we can talk about all kinds of things. We have all kinds of people. We were talking about renewable energy and water from air and green waste being power. These things that are right now. And the real reason I'm bringing all this up is when people are going through our library at MauiNeutralZone.com, they're going to see guests like Dreaming Bear, who is, I want to say, an outspoken being whose presence is felt every time I see you. I know that, you know, you walk with certainty, and you have a sense about you that is very powerful, very gentle, but very I'm a gentle lion. You know, don't mistake my gentleness for weakness.
Right.
But you know, you seem to walk with a really, you know, a heartfelt gait. I saw you did a little piece with my friend Steve Freed. You did on Life with Maui, and Steve. I guess you've been on with Bill Best.
Yes.
These guys are, Bill Best is a radio guy. Steve Freed is doing Life on Maui, and I guess we don't say TV anymore, but yeah, on visual and audio. But he's been doing stuff for years.
Yeah,
So we're gonna have some experience. What's that instrument that you play?
This is the hung. I call it an ancient future instrument. It's invented in the year 2000 in Bern, Switzerland.
If you're on radio or if you're on TV and not see it on the screen, it is 2000. When was it invented?
Invented in the year 2000.
2000. So
brass and steel, and it sort of creates a Helmholtz resonator inside. Flower of Life.
Are these actual different notes?
These are the different notes. Actually, the whole thing is one sort of, imagine a drum that's also melodic at the same time.
And so it's set to Western
This is actually set to the scale of the Middle East.
Okay.
So that part of my heritage, my father is from Palestine.
Oh, okay.
And so my mother's Native American, but the Palestinians have a scale called the Hijaz scale, which is sort of that, when you think of ancient Egypt, you know, and I'll play the scale for you in a little bit, but it's definitely unique.
We remember whole, half, whole, half, right?
Right.
Western, but
this is more pentatonic.
This is more, so that's great. But I guess it could be made in all kinds of scales.
This is a rarity. The most of them are made in European or American.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Things that we would recognize in the Western world. A hung. And
so
hung,
if you're on radio, you can't see it, but it's probably 20 inches, 24 inches, and then it's sort of like looks like a flying saucer in the old days.
That's for sure. That's for sure. It's a flying saucer. You know.
I have a picture of a flying saucer in Walo. A guy had it in the back of his place. You don't see the string coming down. And those were the good old days. You lived up at Twin Falls.
I did.
You know.
I did.
Those days, Twin Falls,
magical.
And Walo, places that the view's not going to change; they're going to stay beautiful. What our world is really going at it at a rate that is unprecedented.
It really is. It really is.
Eating resources, and you're a different guy. You seem to be. Your name. Were you born with that as a given name?
That was the name that my grandmother gave me at birth. I'll tell you a little bit of the story. My mom, her name is Jaquita Faye, which is means the rebellious fairy. And what that whole story is that when she was 14, she got pregnant with me. And she was a runaway. She was a teenage truant. She got caught by a truancy officer, put into a juvenile detention center. They gave her an incoming pregnancy test. You're pregnant. You know, we think you should have an abortion. A child shouldn't be raising a child, but we want you to sleep on it, was sort of the story they told her. And so she slept on it. She had a dream in the night. And in this dream, she saw a bear sitting under a weeping willow tree. And the bear said to her, "You're going to have a son, and this child will bring beauty into the world. Do not kill this son." And she woke from the dream, called my grandmother Marie, and Marie Whitefeather told her his name is going to be Dreaming Bear. So it was sort of a premonition that was given to me while I was still in the womb. It definitely, you know, had a huge impact on my life. And as a result, I sort of found dreams as my primary source of information, my primary way of making decisions in the world, my primary way of communicating. Everything that comes to me, my poetry, you know, I do it all through dream cycles. And I think it goes back to that moment when I recognized that if a 14-year-old girl can pay attention to a dream and I'm here as a result, that there must be something to this other world, you know.
How do you access dreams? You mean you remember dreams?
Oh, yeah. Because of the story, when I was a child, my mom would tell me this story, and so I grew up thinking, well, what is in dreams? And so I would have dreams of the future. There's you know, many layers of dreaming. There's house cleaning, which is sort of the basic. You dream you got to pee, and you really got to pee, or the phone's ringing. There's psychological. You're working out problems with somebody, imagined interaction type stuff. There's the mechanical. This is where Einstein was dreaming of riding a beam of light and he came up with the theory of relativity as a result. And then the most profound layer is what they call prophetic dreaming, and that is where you get glimpses into the future. And so I've sort of kept what I call a dream cartography across a lifetime, and just kept a roadmap of where I've been, places I go back to on occasion. Even this morning, I've been thinking a lot about our coming together. What will we talk about? And as I dreamt this morning, it's a real quick dream, I dreamt that there was a huge tsunami coming towards the islands. And there was a great amount of trepidation. The tsunami swept through the streets, and it was moving ultra fast. But for some reason, I had the inclination to jump in and body surf the tsunami. And so I'm body surfing this tsunami at like what seems like 100 miles an hour, going down the main freeway, and I'm just enjoying the ride and passing people, and it's just this overwhelming flood. And then we come to this part where, have you ever been in a street where the rain is real thick and they have those thin slit sewer gutters and the water is just kind of rushing into those gutters? Where
Sure.
I started to get sucked into one of those, and then I woke up and I realized that's more of a metaphor for where we're at as a society. Environmentally speaking, this confluence of tipping points that we're all going through, where everything seems to be about to explode or on the verge of losing balance. And I felt like I was riding that wave, and that the metaphor for me from the dream is that wave leads to a drain. It leads to a ditch. And if you're not careful, if you don't get off the wave, you might get sucked into that. And that seemed to me a message about where we're headed as a society, somehow that we're riding this great technological, innovative wave, but simultaneously the cracks in our foundations are starting to appear, and some of us are going to get sucked into those holes,
As you were telling that story, I was envisioning as you were dreaming, and then when you got to the point of the drain, to me, that's the point where you had a chance, and still do. Mm-hmm. You caught yourself, and you took off again in a positive direction,
exactly.
Not going down the drain. But did you know that? You know anything about my company or my organization over the years?
No.
We have a company, nonprofit, very nonprofit, called MAMA, Maui Arts and Music Association. Maui Arts and Music Association, promotion of art, music, culture of the islands, educate people about environmental solutions, so we could create a self-sustainability model, Maui being an example. That was 1991.
Wow.
Here we are now. It's like you were talking about dreaming. The other name for us is PAPA, People Aligned in Positive Action, Mama and Papa.
I love that.
Then there's another name and that's Dream Makers Foundation of Maui. The notion being dream is very powerful. Action step, not us do it, but together we can create. And so I've been envisioning, in fact, in 1994, I ran, a long time ago, 25 years. That's when I met my partner, Ariel, who you know for years, who loves you, by the way.
Mahalo.
I ran for Green Party candidate for mayor of Maui and council. And so I've had these ideas, and now 25 years later, that 2020 vision in 2020, the technologies that I was thinking about and dreaming of, I can actually talk about tsunami products. It's not magic. They condense water from the air. 125 gallons a day, 500 gallons a day. These things exist.
Yes.
Water from the air means you can build anywhere. Leave open fields, you can build in places, but you don't have to bring in power, because not only can you create power now independently, but you can do it through green waste.
Yes.
And turn it into power and create biochar that has marketable value. And it creates like Jurassic Park growth on Maui as an example to the world. These are visions. I know it sounds like odd to some, but
it sounds like the future.
To a dreamer,
where we're headed.
to someone who sees a dream. I'm in a men's group, and they said, Jason, you think differently than many people. Like your whole life, you don't have much going on around you financially anymore. I got exploded by that mortgage thing that happened. But I get excited because of these dreams
Yes.
I see, and I don't see any reason that they can't happen. And in fact, I feel like I'm walking into my own dream.
Yes.
So when I meet
Yes.
someone who honors dreams like you opened up a little doorway, or a big doorway into where I come
That's
from.
beautiful. I love that. I love that. The dream maker.
So
I love that. And the
all of us.
2020 vision in 2020, I like that as well. Because I say hindsight is 2020, but we're really going to need 2020 to see where we're headed. You know, as a relating point, about 3 years ago, I decided to really go for the sustainable vision. You know, we talk about it, we
Right.
espouse it, but I said, I'm going to live this. And I took my house that I had worked very hard to get, sold it, and went for the dream. I bought 25 acres.
That's awesome.
And started from the ground up, just with nothing. I mean, talking about just building solar, building houses from you know, with own two hands kind of a thing. Me and my partner out there running barbed wire and realizing that what it really takes to start from nothing is a huge learning curve. I mean, sustainability sounds like a great thing and people talk about it, but the reality of it, especially if you're doing it on a budget, is that first, the reality of it is it's much more difficult than you think, because it's almost like society has become addicted to convenience and comfortability to the extent that composting toilets seem like a real far out idea to people from the mainland, especially, you know. But then, you know, we have PhDs, which I have one of, a master's degree I have one, a BA I have one, but then the real education comes when you start to put sticks together and nail them in screws, and you have to dig a ditch line and know how water irrigates itself and how to capture it and how to grow your own food and how to do all of this completely sustainable. And now I'm on the other side of having, you know, what I call a 3-phase approach. My first phase was the pupa phase. You know, I'm getting ready. I'm in the cocoon. I'm building the cocoon, as it were. And then after that, we're doing gardening, and then we're going to do a whole other sustainable wind farm type thing. But right now, we're at the end of phase 1. So I've built 3 structures. They're all sustainable. They're all off the grid. And we're doing that real work of what it means to live with the earth, having animals, having land, and trying to make what seems like the step of modernity, which is to leave behind this addiction to the societal conveniences, and to learn how to do things for ourselves, to become not just sustainable but self-sufficient. I think that's a thing. And what I realized is, as much as I think of it as a future thing, it's really an ancestor thing. You know, it's really going back to indigenous ways, because what I'm doing is the same thing that homesteaders were doing several hundred years ago, pioneers several hundred years ago, thousands of years ago, people who were just human living on the planet were doing sustainability as a matter of fact, as a matter of a way of life. And so now that I'm a year deep into that project of having, you know, spent my nest egg on what seemed like just throwing money into the earth, you know, for a while, because you're trying to do infrastructure type stuff like plumbing and electrical, and these are things that I think, you know, we need a mobilization for right now. You know, like in World War II, there was a mobilization. Like, people mobilized, and we got prepared for that. As a whole country, we said, we're going to do this together. People gave up certain conveniences, you know. People did things that didn't seem like America's freedoms today. But I feel like we need to mobilize now, not towards war, but towards sustainability, towards these things that you're talking about. Water out of the atmosphere.
That's why dream maker, not just dreamer. That's why you are a dream maker.
Exactly. Mahalo, Baba. You know? You too.
That's exactly what I mean.
Yes.
Talk is talk. Now take that step. Let's move forward, because that is Thomas Paine's. I quoted it yesterday. Thomas Paine said, and I got this from Nancy Pelosi speaking. How funny is that? For those of you that don't know in what year we're in 2019, in the times of the impeachment of President Donald Trump in the United States. You know, you might be watching this in the future or in the past, but in the future. That's what. And she was quoting and talking about Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine said, "The times have found us." It's not like we woke up and said, I'm going to do something great. I'm going to make a commitment, and I'm going to do something hard, but I'm going to get self-sustainable, and I'm going to pull things together, and I'm going to work in a different way, and I'm going to share in a different way. And nest egg for later means nothing if there is nobody and nothing left. So let's mobilize and let's recognize brothers and sisters together. We have all the answers. We can make all this work. Not only that, as we go, we'll recognize just how powerful this is. That's my big little speech.
I like it. I like it.
But it's genuine.
Yes.
It's genuinely what the world needs is to recognize how to cooperate. Because it's possible, but it takes action.
Action. It's easy. It's really easy to talk about it. It's not so easy to leave the comfort zone. This is where we as a society get anchored into the being so comfortable. I mean, I loved my house. I did not want to sell it, but everything in me was saying, if you're talking about sustainability, be about sustainability. And it reminds me of Maya Angelou. She had a great quote where she said, "Everyone loves the butterfly, but few people are aware of what it had to go through to become the butterfly." I mean, we're not focused on the story of how it became the butterfly. We just see the end result. But we're at that moment now where we're going to have to go through some things. I went through the first 3 months off grid. I was like a baby, like, oh my God, I
can't plug in
regretting
my cell phone.
Exactly. I can't flush my toilet. There were all these, like, I could feel, it almost felt like a drug addict, losing its what is the withdrawal symptoms of,
I can understand.
not being sustainable.
Real withdrawal.
Yeah, exactly. But on the other side of it, there's this freedom. And now, having lived it for a year, I'm planning on never coming back to the world of the grid. It's been such a relief to not have to give money to the Hell Company, Helco, and to not have to rely on someone for the basic necessities of life. Fortunately, I was able to pay off all the land, so now we're just focusing on what we call the Center for Metamorphosis. This is my next phase, where we're going to have people come and cocoon themselves for 1, 2, 3 month cycles, and this is where we come back to what you're talking about, the dream making. People are dreamers, but they rarely have the courage to give themselves the permission they need to go through what they have to go through to become the being that they envision themselves to be. So what I want to do is give people a place in nature, off the grid, to forget what they were taught and to learn what they were born to do and to really cultivate themselves, and then to offer them that to the world in a certain way.
Well, it sounds like we're very aligned.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah.
We are aligned.
We are.
I mean, obviously, I just very happy to hear that you're doing that step.
Mahalo.
If there's anything that I can do, I mean, I know that to me, I was mentioning to you, I think, off camera here, it's like many times I need help. I really need help, but I'm not big at asking for help. But when people say, if there's anything I can do, that's the kind of help that I'm looking for. When someone reaches out to help, like someone broke into my car and stole everything. I'm told that story to my brother, and he sending me an iPad, that he's got. Meaning, I wouldn't ask him, but he gave it.
Right.
It's like I go and do things, like I go visit someone, and I have people say things to me like, "Oh, that was so beautiful." It's that taking the action step. It's really, it's true. So small.
It's true.
But it stands out from things. It's like turning, once you get off the grid, like you say, once you get out of this matrix, or you shift things just a little bit, and the world, that dream world, it's as if by making a shift, the whole world shifts. I was giving food that was given to me through a Feed My Sheep food bank thing, and giving it to a family that had, a couple of kids. And they said to me, our cupboards were bare, and now they're full. And what you do, like, now we find ourselves doing good things and helping each other. change of attitude, a little shift.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. 25 acres.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And it's right on the ocean, so we're about 600 feet elevation. We're a little bit above the ocean, but it's in a beautiful spot. You know, it brings me back. What I've learned most of this time is that if we're talking about truth, that if there is such a thing as capital T truth, for me, nature is it. And if there is such a thing as capital S sacrilege, defiling nature would be it, or taking it for granted, or not somehow being in alignment with it would be a form. If we had to come up with a new form of a higher standard for humanity, you know, the word culture originally meant people who care for their environment. That's the word culture. And then the word competition, as a poet, I looked these things up, originally meant people who strive together towards a common intent. So if culture and competition have been lost, the true meanings of those things, what else have we lost? And that's what we need to get back to.
Well, that's powerful, because I always say cooperation trumps competition, but it is the same.
Striving together toward true competition is striving together. Like
together.
You making me better, I make you better. And what's the best version of humanity we can come to an agreement upon between us? And that's what I love about this conversation, is the impromptu moment of two beings coming together and say, where does this iron sharpen this iron, and where can we find sparks, you know?
We're going to take a break. I'm here with Dreaming Bear. I'm Jason Schwartz on the Neutral Zone. If you are up on the internet, you can go to Facebook Live and find us, or you can find us in the air, 88.5 FM, KAKU, the voice of Maui. We will be back in a couple of minutes. Let me put on a station identification and a couple of sponsors. The Neutral Zone with me, Jason Schwartz, would like to sincerely thank David Bryan for his support. David was founder and head of school at New Road School in Santa Monica, California, and is the board chair at the Ojai Foundation and on the board for Brave New Films. The Neutral Zone is heard live Mondays at 11 a.m. here on KAKU 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui, and again on Saturdays at 7 a.m., as well as on TV and on MauiNeutralZone.com.
The 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Hi, this is Steve Summers welcoming you aboard the Oldies Time Machine right here on KAKU. Enjoy special features like the Diner Tune, the Motown Memory, the Doo-Wopper, and the Elvis Moment. Come on! Spend an hour inside the Oldies Time Machine, Sunday mornings at 1 and 10 a.m. right here on the voice of Maui, KAKU.
It's important to buckle up your kids.
I know.
Sometimes car seats can be complicated.
I know.
And if your child's in the wrong seat and you get into a crash,
I know.
It could lead to a serious injury.
I know.
So you're 100% sure you have the right car seat for your child's age and size?
I don't know.
Don't think you know. Know you know. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Make sure you have the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
From everyone here at Akaku to you, we wish you joy, cheer, and aloha this holiday season. Please be safe. Don't drive under the influence. Be kind to one another. Enjoy the company of your family and friends. Take time and enjoy your meals. Think of how you can help others. Reflect on your past and plan for a healthy and positive future. Wishing you all a very happy holiday season and a wonderful new year.
Hi, I'm Jason Schwartz, host of The Neutral Zone. KAKU is a listener-supported station. This means that all of the great programs you hear, like mine, are sponsored by you as well as our underwriters. If you would like to help keep the voice of Maui talking loud and clear, go to kakufm.org/donate today and give. And don't miss The Neutral Zone Mondays at 11 a.m. on 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui. Aloha, this is Jason Schwartz. I am back with Dreaming Bear on The Neutral Zone. MauiNeutralZone.com. The Neutral Zone was taken by the University, I think it was University of Alabama. And so
Academia.
We're MauiNeutralZone.com. But the idea is we're a neutral zone, the neutral zone, and we can talk about anything with anyone. And really, I think that putting down the sword thing, that just is very graphic and visual, but
Yeah.
I don't have edges.
No, I love that. I love that. I love that. You know, when you say the neutral zone, it reminds me of when you go to the Big Island and you go on the way to the volcano, there's signs that say no fault zone. And I always joke to the people in the car, I always say, oh, no one's at fault. We're in a place where no one can be at fault. That's sort of what the neutral zone is, a place where a free exchange of ideas.
Yeah.
Where we can really discuss what's pertinent.
We talk about, if things are going on with the council or the mayor and someone has a thing, I'm much more interested in what's behind there. What is it that we're trying to come to understand and appreciate about so that we aren't on sides at all. Somehow that always feels like it's going to work better.
Yeah, I think it's more interesting, too, because people are bored with the status quo. I mean, who cares?
And it's an inclusive model. It says we. It doesn't say you and me.
Exactly.
You're out there as a poet.
Yeah.
What are you a doctor of? What is your interest level? Where were you?
No. I got my BA in communications, and I got a master's degree in communications as well, and with an emphasis on performance at Cal State. And then I got the PhD in religion, philosophy of religion, basically.
Oh.
And I taught philosophy and I taught communications at Cal State for a few years, and that was a great time. I loved it. I did it more as a, for me, my father being Palestinian, my mother being Cherokee, I grew up in sort of a disparate world. The sort of inherited collective displacement of those two cultures influenced my life. And so for me, education was the only way out, knowledge, really honing my mind. So when I was young, looking around me, seeing all the poverty, I said to myself, I'm not going to end up like this. And for me, the way to not end up like that was, instead of drinking, doing drugs, going to parties, I was reading and I was mastering instruments and trying to master several languages and trying to invest in the creative aspects. Because my early thought was, I saw all the people around me addicted to alcohol, cigarettes, all kinds of stuff. And I thought, well, what if I could get addicted to good habits, like working out and reading and then memorizing. And, so what I did early on as a very young man was being poor, I would go to the library and I couldn't afford to buy a book, so I would just memorize the book in the store. I would just read it and memorize the best parts and keep that with me. And I did that with Thoreau, with Emerson, with Twain, with all the great American literary artists. And then I started branching out and looking at, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and having this mixed culture gave me the perspective of being able to look at very different.
Where did that spark inside? Did that come from just coming from you? Were you influenced by someone in your life that got you? I mean, that's an exciting thing as a child to go in and devour through literature and reading and exploring.
Yes.
I hope that kids now with the internet have that same. I hope they do.
How could they not? Everything's at their fingertips. It seems to me like.
I hope so. I'm hoping that it doesn't become.
But a lot of
I'm a bit
misinformation.
afraid of that. Yeah. Of the truth. How do you decide what's the true and what's not true?
Right.
And where are we?
Right. That's why I say truth with a capital T. For me, the only one is nature. Otherwise, that's one we can all at least agree on. The primacy of it. For me, I didn't have a person driving me to do these things. I was fortunate and unfortunate. At the age of 8, my brother was killed and my sister was taken. She was kidnapped. And I was the one who was bearing witness to those things. I was the older brother. My sister was, I was 8. She was 6. My brother was 4. And my brother was killed. This all happened within a 6-month period. And so my brother and I were just sitting in our front yard. A guy lost control of his car and he ran over my brother, like literally as close as this hung is. Like, and when you're 8, you don't know what death is. That got me really recognizing at 8 that there's a thing called death, and I might die. My sister was taken a few months later, and without going into the details of the story, that really turned me into an introspective. I became an introvert. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to have, which is contrary to everything that I am now. Now I'm an outspoken person, but all that voice comes from isolation and from going within. So having to deal with the death of my brother, the loss of my sister, turned me inward, and that got me to thinking, how do I not turn into the statistical people around me? And here's where it all came to a head one day. My grandmother, who named me, my mother, my aunts and uncles used to have these what I call cigarette coffee conversations, where they would all sit around the circular table and they would talk about the family and smoke cigarettes and drink coffee. And it was at night. The kids weren't supposed to be there, but being the dreaming bear I would sneak down the hall and I would record with a little tape recorder their conversations and then play them for the kids the next day, and we would hear them cussing, and I thought it was fun. One night I was recording, and they started talking about all the kids in the family. Oh, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? What's he going to do? Oh, he's going to be a doctor. Oh, he's going to be a police officer. And then they came up to Dreaming Bear. And they got quiet. Like, oh. And then my grandmother, this is my grandmother, the one who named me, the one who said this boy is meant for great things. She said, I'm afraid he's going to end up dead or in prison. And I don't think there's any hope for this boy, because at that point my sister had been taken, my brother had been killed, my father was in prison for selling marijuana, and eventually he was deported back to Palestine. He had to serve out a sentence. And so at that point, I heard them say that I was recording them saying I was going to be the one that would turn out bad. So I broke down on the inside. I crawled back to my room and I started crying. And then something inside of me said, no, I will not be that. I'm going to do whatever I can to not be that. And so really it was hearing that I couldn't do it that kind of, and since then it's sort of become a trend that if someone says, no, you can't do that, then I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that. For me, something said that future, if my grandmother, who believes in me more than anyone, thinks that that's my future, I'm in trouble. I need to do something. And so that turned me around. Hearing that actually turned me around. Almost overnight, I became a different person. Within a few weeks, I was making straight A's in school. I got scholarships. I went on to be the only person in my family to graduate high school, to go on to college, to even get degrees.
You got motivated by being, I quote, set out to be your own. It's funny. Mm-hmm. Like you say, you turned within, the God within you recognized that for your life it was going to be you.
Yes.
You were going to take an action.
Exactly. Or end up like they said. Yeah. So it was a wake-up call. Yeah. At the time, I was really hurt by it, but in retrospect, we're talking about hindsight being 20/20.
You looked at this, I'm sure, before.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's a powerful thing that happens in this day and age. We see all around us kids and families and things that are going on. There's so much beauty here on Maui. I've been here now 30 years.
Wow.
And I've had a wonderful partner in Ariel for 25 years. So I've lived in a community that leads with love for the most part. I've lived, Ariel, I want to say, is new age. I guess I'm new age, but I'm sort of a bridge guy. I still am conservative in knowing that you have to add a total of financials.
Right. That's crucial.
So I'm a balance. But because there's no swords, we all talk together.
Yes.
This island is so rich in beautiful people. That's what I was saying. That just living here, if you aren't from on Maui and you come to Maui, you're going to feel it in the air. People say no matter where they go in the world, there's something really special about here.
There really is. I came here 20 years ago. So you being here 30 years, you've seen the change. I mean, what Maui was 20 years ago is completely almost different to the animal that it is today. I mean, it's some of it's scary, some of it's exciting. Just the 35,000 tourists a day in Lahaina alone, kind of a thing. The bulging, for me, Maui has always been my sanctuary. It's been my home, and I agree with you. It's a magical place, and Maui no Kauai. Simultaneously, I feel like Maui is almost at that crossroad. Yeah. And something's about, there's a great exodus off of Maui for people who can't afford housing, for people who can't be in the scene of millionaires.
And that's because we could have gone left or right. They went left.
Right, exactly.
When I was running 25 years ago, a lot of the things that we see now that everyone's saying we should do, I was talking about then. And it wasn't just me, the things that were going on where we're looking over the horizon a little bit, looking at the future. And that's why your powerful thing about you going out there and starting your community and going from the ground up, to me, is a great example to people. Some people don't need to be starting at that level. And with other technologies, there are all kinds of things that can happen.
Exactly.
But making those giant changes.
Exactly.
Like, here's a funny one, has a little quick giant change. People say, well, right now, if you want to create, listen how funny I think. If you want to create power and water in your own structure, then you don't need a building permit. Well, really? Is that right? Okay, but now we can create water from air and power from solar or other ways. And that means we can build a community on a piece of land in a new and different way without having any authority invading. If we learn how to deal with and process our waste.
Yes.
That kind of example. Now, if someone did that and then shared it with whoever it be, and then that's where the active conversion of existing. If we're going to save our world, all of you out there that think that you'll just be in your little house and won't do anything to hurt, that's not going to save our world.
No, that's the drain. That's the drain we were headed towards.
If we stop and we replenish carbon, we have to, all of us, do things that aren't that always easy. It's not always the easiest that's the best.
Yeah.
That was written in my high school yearbook by my 10th grade science teacher. Isn't that funny?
That's wise. That's true, too.
But here we are. We're at that crossroads. So to once again go back to Thomas Paine, these are the times they've found us. Maybe you don't want to take that and use the cup and clean the cup. You'd rather use a paper cup. Well, we have to start, all of us, me included, start doing things to realize that we all have to be involved.
Yes.
Your big steps are big steps. And everybody's step, they're all big steps to all of us.
Exactly.
Personally.
Yeah. 100%.
Gets easier, though. Like you say, after a year, it's like, well, I like this. I don't want to go back.
Exactly. I've gotten so used. So the main problem is getting comfortable with confronting your own waste product. That's a big problem for humans in America. I mean, we're like, whoa, I don't want to see it. I don't want to smell it. I don't want to think about it. But we've actually found a way to turn it into, we plant coconut trees. We dig holes, we put it in the holes, and then we plant coconut trees on top of them and reuse it to grow food and to grow trees. I mean,
fantastic.
Which is the way you should. There's not any part of our lives that doesn't go back into the earth and recycle itself, it's a good feeling. Once you're in it for a while, you're like, now I feel like before when I had a house, I was spending like 3,000 gallons a month just flushing the toilet. And you start thinking, that's 15 gallons of water every time I want to use the restroom, even if it's just number one. Now the earth gets renewed with nitrous. We call it watering the earth. And then we are able to turn our actual waste product into compost for trees. It just feels like you're really stepping back into this is something that is simple. It's a simple way, but getting comfortable again with the natural processes of being human, I think that's part of returning to nature.
Sounds like we could handle the homeless problem just by having a different perspective on what a home is and what means home.
Exactly.
And feeling like a community, and it isn't really an alternative. We don't have an alternative. This is the world that we're in. Yeah. There is no alternative, or maybe there is, but it's like, what is our choice? This is where we don't reach for greatness. It comes to us. We are embodying a time that requires us to be the great beings that we are.
Yes.
I know. Yes. I don't know if I talk to everybody this way, but somehow I feel very comfortable talking.
Well, because we lay down the sword, and that reminds me, when you say you lay down the sword, it reminds me of Voltaire. Even your intro song kind of reminded me of Voltaire. He says, on his deathbed, you can tell a lot about a person by their last moments on the planet. On his deathbed, he's approached by a Catholic priest, and the priest says, Voltaire, would you like to renounce Satan at this time? And Voltaire says, now, my good man, this is no time to go making new enemies. and then he went on to say, this is before he died, he went on to say, he had said, if this is the best of all possible worlds, what then are the others? And I think that's the question that we're trying to get to is, you know, we have an opportunity to create the best of possible worlds. And that's sort of what the neutral zone is representative of. But why aren't we? This is a question. Like, when you look at the world and you see most beautiful possible outcome and least beautiful possible outcome living side by side, and humans consistently choosing things and actions that lead to the same predictable bad outcomes, you have to ask yourself, in a world of infinite possibilities, why would we keep choosing that kind of a path? And really, it's just about taking the initiative within yourself, forgetting about what people think about you, what you think about yourself, what your standing is financially and otherwise, and just saying, my life has to count for something. This is what it's going to count for. And so having the courage to step into that, I think that's the call that's upon us all right now.
Very well said. You know, we only have 11 minutes left, and I could keep talking, but I'm sitting here looking at this hung.
Yes.
And I know that you have a relationship with it.
I do.
I don't know if any of it's going to be visually available on the air, but I'm not worried about that.
That's all right. They'll be able to hear. This is Helios.
It's very interesting that I don't see. Well, there we go. Okay. Oh, there you go. Perfect.
This is Helios, the Hijaz hung in the Hijaz scale. And, you know, when I first got this hung, I had a dream. The first night I got it, I slept with it next to me in the bed, and I had a dream that I had discovered it embedded in lava rock on the islands, and that I had somehow cut it out, and that in my dream, when I started to play it, it created a time warp bubble around me, and I appeared on a train in the sky, traveling faster than the speed of light, having anti-gravity tea with Albert Einstein. And as Einstein and I are sitting there on top of this train, traveling in the sky, faster than the speed of light, with time immemorial happening around us. There's cowboys and Indians over here. There's dinosaurs over here. There's the future happening over there. And hovering in lotus position, drinking anti-gravity tea, Einstein asks me, "Do you remember who you were 5 years ago?" And I say, "Well, yeah." He says, "So you remember what you thought, how you felt?" I said, "Of course." He says, "Then why can't you remember who you will be 5 years from now?" And I said, "Oh." And that's sort of the beginning of where this instrument, how it introduced itself to me, okay?
That's great.
So what I do is I used to do, before I stepped into this world of sustainability, you know, I used this instrument as sort of a magic carpet bed of music, and I traveled the world sharing conscious poetics, and I was able to go into a lot of places, speak with a lot of different people. I'll just give you a 2-minute introduction to what this is like. Here is life. Here is life. An experiment to a great extent untried by most. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to suck all the marrow out of life, and not, when I come to die, discover that I'd never actually lived. Because living is so dear. Just a little taste of what this instrument is and and the specialness of this creature. It really became my lover for 9 months. Learning to play it, my fingers bled, my knuckles swole. I played it so long for 9 months, trying to learn how to do a complicated rhythm and share actual words that mean something, and to find that place where word and music became one, where I could do it in my sleep. I could do it with my eyes closed. I could do it underwater. I could do it in any way. That's what the kind of dedication I'm talking about that society needs now, where we have to find what we're good at or what we love and become so good at it that it's a part of us, that it exudes from us wherever we go, and that it's an aspect of who we are. And it also, here's my motto in life. I exist in order to beautify, and that my goal is to give existence the cosmic equivalent of goosebumps, if I'm able to. Maybe if we're watching shooting stars and going, maybe they're watching us and waiting to not be bored by our existences. And if we can just live lives that give ourselves goosebumps, I think that by proxy gives existence goosebumps. So that's sort of my motto in life, is follow your goosebumps. Yeah.
Well said.
Mahalo.
We got a few minutes left. I would love to hear another piece, and then how about close out? You got a couple of minutes of something else?
Yeah, definitely.
I can appreciate this. I don't think I've ever seen anyone else here play them. I've seen them around or heard them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Middle Eastern sound, I can really hear.
That's that Middle Eastern scale you're familiar with. I'll give you a little poem by one of my favorite poets. Little by little, you will turn into stars. Even then, my friend, you will only be a crawling infant, skinning your knees on God. Oh, little by little, you will turn into the whole sweet, amorous universe in heat on a wild spring night, and become so free in a conscious, one-pointed, infinite need for light. Even then, the universe will have fulfilled only a fraction, just a fraction of a promise that the sky wrote upon your heart as your soul began to ever bloom and laugh and spin in eternal ecstasy. Because little by little, little by little, you will turn into stars.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Who is that author?
That is one of my favorite pieces by a man named Hafiz. Maybe you're familiar with Hafiz.
Yeah, that's great.
The Palestinian in me loves those great Sufi mystics. They have so much beauty to offer the world.
Well, you've been a wonderful guest. You have your own show is on the weekend.
That's true. Mostly conscious dance music and philosophical poetics.
How do people find that?
It's on Fridays and Saturday nights on 88.5 FM, KAKU, the voice of Maui. It is called the Maui Mystic Radio Show, 7 to 8 p.m. every Friday and Saturday.
Great.
Yeah, it's on TuneIn, and unfortunately I don't have the studio like you guys do, but
we're going to find a way to figure that out.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
I'll become part of that solution.
I'd be honored. Thank you so much.
You've been a wonderful guest. I'm really glad we got to meet.
Me too.
I look forward to our off-camera continuing.
How we can cross-pollinate
here.
Yeah.
Because you're a dream maker, and you are a welcome part of the vision I see, and I can tell we're already together.
Mahalo.
I think that, what do we say? We're at the perfect time to show each of us that we are together. Blue and green and black and white and pink. We all are looking, I think, we're all looking for something that being in cooperation can only make it easier and better, even on the route to healing. Just learning to cooperate. It's just a real change of heart. Your open-hearted, giving nature is very clear and obvious to me.
Mahalo, yours too, brother. Mahalo.
Thank you for being here with me.
I'm honored. Thank you.
We are, this is KAKU, 88.5 FM radio. You can find it on Facebook Live. You can find it on MauiNeutralZone.com. You can find it on YouTube. It's up there with all our shows. And while you're up there, look at other shows, because all of this fits together. We're going to have a show soon where I'll put the pieces together and show you some of the guests that you've already seen and how they fit into these solutions that we keep talking about.
Right. In case your listeners are interested, I do have 13 books and 11 albums that are published and out there. DreamingBear.net.
Oh, great. Well, perfect timing, because we are going to say goodbye to you. Thank you all for joining us here. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
Mahalo. Thank you, brother.
Blessings
Keep doing
to you. Well, everyone, we will see you next week at the Neutral Zone. Next week, we're going to talk about Osho with Jeff Heisel.
Ooh, exciting.
We're going to talk about that whole thing. You go to Wild Wild Country on Netflix. Check it out. We'll see you next week. Thank you all for joining us. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you so much to Akaku and KAKU for being the voice of Maui.